I found out my husband was having an affair the way most people discover their worst nightmares. By accident, in the worst possible location, at the worst possible moment. It was a Tuesday evening in late September when I walked into my parents' kitchen to retrieve the casserole dish I'd left behind after Sunday dinner. The house was quiet, or so I thought. I'd used my key, calling out a perfunctory, "Hello?" that echoed through the foyer without response. My mother's Lexus was in the driveway, so I assumed she was upstairs, probably organizing her closet for the 100th time that month. I was halfway across the living room, heading toward the kitchen, when I heard her voice. Low, conspiratorial, the tone she reserved for her most serious telephone conversations. I paused, not intending to eavesdrop, but something in the quality of her whisper made my feet stop moving. "I know Audrey can make you happy in ways Judith can't." My mother's voice, clear as crystal. "It's just one night, Michael. Don't ruin our family over this." The casserole dish slipped from my fingers. It didn't break. I caught it against my hip with reflexes I didn't know I possessed. But the sound of my own heartbeat suddenly filled my ears, drowning out everything else. Michael, my husband, Audrey, my best friend since 4th grade, my mother, giving them permission. I stood there, frozen, as their voices continued. My husband's response was quieter, harder to make out, but I caught fragments. "Oh, knows something's wrong, and can't keep doing this." Then my mother again. "We'll make sure she never finds out. Trust me." Soft laughter. His laughter. The same laugh he'd given me that morning when I'd kissed him goodbye, when he'd promised to pick up groceries on his way home from work. My hand found my phone in my pocket. Muscle memory, really. I opened the voice recording app and held it up, my arm steady despite the trembling that had started somewhere deep in my core and was working its way outward. I recorded 3 minutes and 47 seconds before they moved. I heard chairs scraping, footsteps heading toward the front hallway. I moved faster than I'd ever moved in my life, slipping through the kitchen's side door and out into the garden, crouching behind my mother's prized hydrangea bushes like a thief in my own childhood home. Through the window, I watched my husband kiss my mother's cheek, watched her pat his arm with maternal affection, watched them both smile like they'd just solved a particularly tricky crossword puzzle together. I waited until his car disappeared down the street before I walked back to my own vehicle, parked 2 houses down. I sat in the driver's seat for 20 minutes, playing the recording back 3 times, making sure I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't. Before we deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Judith Hale. I'm 36 years old. I work as a financial consultant for mid-sized corporations, specializing in asset protection and risk management. My job is to see problems before they become catastrophes, to build safeguards against worst-case scenarios. I'm very good at my job. By the time I pulled into my own driveway that evening, I had already made 7 decisions. The first was that I would tell no one, not yet. The second was that I would act like nothing had changed. The 3rd through 7th were tactical, and they required research. Michael came home at 6:15, right on schedule, carrying 2 bags of groceries and wearing his easy, affable smile. He kissed my forehead, told me about a difficult client meeting, asked about my day. I responded normally, amazed at how simple it was to lie when you knew the other person was lying too. We moved around each other in our kitchen like dancers who'd perfected their routine, preparing dinner together, discussing whether we should repaint the guest bathroom, debating the merits of switching to a new internet provider. Normal. Everything was so excruciatingly normal. After dinner, while Michael settled into his usual spot on the couch to watch a documentary about deep-sea exploration, I excused myself to our home office. I told him I had a presentation to review, another lie in an evening full of them. I opened my laptop and began my research. First, our finances. We had 3 accounts, a joint checking, a joint savings with $47,000, and my personal retirement account. The savings account had been opened when we got married 5 years ago, with my signature as the primary account holder. Michael's was secondary, a small detail, but legally significant. I could move or close that account without his permission. Second, the house. We'd purchased it 3 years ago. Both names on the mortgage, but I'd put down the entire down payment, $60,000 from an inheritance my grandmother had left me. My lawyer had insisted on a paper trail proving the source of those funds. At the time, I'd thought she was being paranoid. Now, I mentally composed a thank you note to her pragmatism. Third, his schedule. Michael worked as a marketing executive for a regional firm downtown. His office was on the 12th floor. His assistant was a woman named Patricia, who'd been with the company for 20 years and had a reputation for being fiercely protective of protocol and profoundly unimpressed by charm. Fourth, Audrey. Her salon, Audrey's Atelier, a pretentious name for a strip mall beauty shop, was struggling. I knew this because she'd mentioned it last month over coffee, complaining about rent increases and competition from a new franchise that had opened 2 miles away. She'd asked if I knew anyone who might want to invest. I'd said I'd think about it. Now I was thinking about it. Fifth, my mother, Elaine Brooks, age 58, president of her church women's auxiliary, volunteer coordinator for the annual charity gala, proud owner of more opinions than sense. She valued reputation above almost everything else. Her social standing was built on decades of carefully cultivated relationships, strategic philanthropic efforts, and an ability to always say the right thing to the right people. A scandal would destroy her. The thought should have given me pause, should have made me reconsider. But every time I felt a flicker of guilt, I replayed the recording. Listened to her tell my husband that my best friend could make him happier than I could. Heard her laugh. The guilt disappeared. By midnight, I had filled a notebook with timelines, account numbers, and contingencies. Michael had fallen asleep on the couch, the documentary still playing, images of bioluminescent jellyfish drifting across the screen. I stood in the doorway and watched him for a long moment, trying to reconcile this man, mouth slightly open, hair mussed, looking vulnerable and almost innocent, with the man who'd been in my mother's kitchen, laughing about deceiving me. I couldn't reconcile them, so I stopped trying. I woke him gently, told him to come to bed. He smiled sleepily, took my hand, followed me upstairs. We lay in the darkness, not touching, the space between us measured in inches but feeling like miles. "Love you, Jude," he murmured, already half asleep again. "Love you too," I whispered back. Another lie. Or maybe not. Maybe I did still love him, the him I'd thought he was. Maybe that was the cruelest part of all this. The man I loved didn't exist anymore, if he ever had. I waited until his breathing deepened and steadied before I slipped out of bed and returned to the office. I had work to do. The next morning, Wednesday, I woke at 5:30 and went for a run. This wasn't unusual. I ran 3 times a week, a habit I'd maintained since college. What was unusual was my route. Instead of my normal loop through the neighborhood, I ran downtown, past Michael's office building, timing how long it took to get from the parking garage to the elevator bank. 11 minutes at a brisk walk, 7 at a jog, good to know. At 7, I was showered and dressed, sitting at our kitchen table with coffee and toast, scrolling through my phone with apparent casualness when Michael came downstairs. "Early meeting?" he asked, pouring himself coffee. "Conference call with a client in California," I said smoothly. "Wanted to review the files first." He nodded, distracted, already checking his own phone. I watched him over the rim of my mug. He was handsome, I supposed, tall, good bone structure, the kind of features that photographed well. We'd met at a networking event 6 years ago. He'd made me laugh. That had seemed important at the time. "Hey, random question," I said, keeping my tone light. "Did you stop by my mom's yesterday?" He looked up, and for just a fraction of a second, something flickered across his face. Then his expression smoothed into easy confusion. "Your mom's? No. Why?" "She mentioned she thought she saw your car in the neighborhood. Must have been someone else's." "Must have been," he agreed, returning his attention to his phone. Perfect. He lied without hesitation, without guilt, without even a moment of real consideration. That made everything simpler. After he left for work, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to my bank. I scheduled an appointment for that afternoon to discuss reorganizing my accounts. The representative was helpful and accommodating. The second was to a locksmith. I explained that I'd recently had a security concern and wanted to upgrade our locks. He could come by tomorrow morning at 10? Perfect. The third call was to Theo Raines. Theo worked in my office, 2 cubicles down from mine. He was 40, quiet, competent, and had worked in corporate law before switching to financial consulting. More importantly, he was the kind of person who asked questions with his eyes, but never with his mouth. We'd worked together on several projects. I trusted his discretion. "Judith," he answered on the second ring. "What's up?" "I need a favor," I said. "It's complicated, probably unethical, and definitely outside your job description." A pause. Then, "I'm listening." "Can you get me a laptop identical to a standard corporate model from Whitman and Associates?" That was Michael's company. "Probably." "Why?" "I need to mirror some data. Personal reasons." Another pause, longer this time. "How personal?" "The kind that ends a marriage." "Ah, he said quietly. "Give me 2 days. I'll need to check what their standard issue is." "Thank you, Theo." "Judith?" His voice was careful. "Whatever you're doing, make sure you're protected. Legally protected." "That's exactly what I'm doing," I said, and ended the call. At 2 o'clock, I was sitting across from a bank manager named Preston, who had kind eyes and a wedding ring that looked older than me. "So you'd like to transfer the joint savings into your personal account," he confirmed, reviewing the forms I'd filled out. "Yes. I'm the primary account holder. That's legal, correct?" "It is, yes. The primary holder can move or close joint accounts. But Mrs. Hale, I have to ask, is everything all right? These kinds of transfers usually indicate divorce preparation." I finished for him. "Yes, that's exactly what this is." He nodded slowly. "I understand. I'll process this immediately. The funds should be available in your personal account within 2 hours." "Thank you, Preston." "Mrs. Hale?" He hesitated. "I hope you have a good lawyer." "I do," I said, though I hadn't called her yet. That would be tonight. By 4 o'clock, $47,000 was sitting safely in an account that only I could access. By 5, I was sitting in my car outside Audrey's salon, watching through the window as she styled an elderly woman's hair, laughing at something her client said. She looked happy, carefree, like someone who hadn't been sleeping with her best friend's husband. I watched for 10 minutes, then drove home. Michael arrived at 6:30, later than usual. He looked tired, stressed. He kissed my cheek, the same cheek my mother had kissed yesterday, and loosened his tie. "Rough day?" I asked, stirring pasta sauce at the stove. "Client's being difficult. Wants to see 3 more proposal versions before making a decision." He pulled a beer from the refrigerator. "How was your day?" "Productive," I said truthfully. "Very productive." We ate dinner. We discussed weekend plans. We watched television. We went to bed. Normal. Everything was still so normal. Except at midnight, when he was asleep and I was supposedly reading, I crept down to his briefcase in the hallway and carefully photographed every password, every sticky note, every scrap of information I could find. His laptop password was written inside his planner, Whitman 2024, with an exclamation point because apparently my husband's security protocols were as solid as his marriage vows. I returned to bed and lay in the darkness, thinking about timing, about precision, about the difference between revenge and justice, and whether I cared about the distinction. I decided I didn't. Thursday morning, Theo called at 8:15. "I have your laptop," he said without preamble. "Whitman & Associates uses Dell Latitude 5430s, standard configuration. I have one that's never been unboxed." "How did you... You don't want to know. When do you need it?" "Today? Can I meet you somewhere?" "Coffee shop on Market Street. Noon." At exactly noon, I slid into a booth across from Theo. He pushed a laptop case across the table. "It's clean," he said. "Factory settings. You'll need to set it up to match his." "I can do that." I paused. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing. But Judith?" He leaned forward slightly. "Whatever you're planning, make sure you have copies of everything. Multiple copies, different locations." "I will. And make sure you're not breaking any laws you can't afford to break." I met his eyes. "The law is on my side here. I'm just making sure everyone knows it." He nodded and stood to leave. Then he stopped, turned back. "For what it's worth, whoever did this to you is an idiot." "Several idiots, actually," I said. "But thank you." That afternoon, I called in sick to work. Not entirely a lie. I felt sick every time I thought about what I'd discovered. Instead of going to the office, I went to a coffee shop across town and spent 4 hours learning everything I could about Michael's company email protocols, his login procedures, his calendar access. It turns out there are entire forums dedicated to helping people recover forgotten passwords for various corporate systems. Very helpful forums. Very understanding communities. By evening, I had access to Michael's company email, his calendar, and his backed-up chat logs. I sat in my car in the coffee shop parking lot and read through 6 months of messages. The affair had started in March, 5 months ago. Right after Audrey's birthday party, which I'd organized, which I'd paid for, which I'd spent 3 weeks planning because Audrey had been stressed and needed something to lift her spirits. Apparently, Michael had lifted more than her spirits. The messages were explicit, graphic, full of details I didn't want to know but forced myself to read anyway because I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. They'd met at hotels, they'd met at her apartment, they'd even met at our house once when I'd been at a 3-day conference in Chicago. Our bed. They'd used our bed. I sat in that parking lot until my hands stopped shaking, until I could breathe normally again. until the rage crystallized into something colder, sharper, more useful. Then I drove home, arriving just before Michael. I greeted him with a smile, made dinner, pretended everything was fine, because everything was fine, or it would be soon. That night, after Michael fell asleep, I took both laptops, his and the duplicate, into the guest bathroom and locked the door. I spent 3 hours mirroring his device, copying every file, every message, every scrap of data. The duplicate became a perfect clone, identical except for the serial number. At 2 a.m, I crept downstairs and swapped them. His original laptop went into my car trunk, hidden under a blanket. The duplicate went into his briefcase, sitting exactly where he'd left the original. Phase 1 complete. Friday morning, the locksmith arrived at 10. Michael had already left for work, and I'd taken the day off, telling my boss I had a family emergency. "All 3 doors?" the locksmith confirmed. "Front, back, and garage?" "Yes, and I'll need multiple sets of the new keys." "No problem. Should take about 2 hours." I sat on the porch while he worked, drinking coffee and making lists. Patricia, Michael's assistant, would be at her desk. She was the gatekeeper, the person who controlled access to Michael's schedule and, by extension, to Michael himself. I needed Patricia on my side. At 11:30, I called Whitman and Associates. Patricia speaking. "Hi, Patricia. This is Judith Hale, Michael's wife." "Oh, hello, Mrs. Hale. Is everything all right?" "Actually, I was hoping to do something nice for Michael. He's been so stressed lately with that difficult client. I wanted to bring him lunch, surprise him, maybe cheer him up a bit. Would he have time around 1? "How thoughtful. Let me check his calendar." A pause. "He's got a conference call from 1 to 1:30, but he should be free after that." "Perfect. I'll come by around 1:45 then. Thank you so much, Patricia." "Of course, dear. He's lucky to have you." The irony wasn't lost on me. At 1:30, I drove downtown with a bag containing lunch from Michael's favorite sandwich shop and his original laptop. I parked in the garage, took the elevator to the 12th floor, and smiled at Patricia. "Hi, I'm a bit early. Is he off his call yet?" "Just finished. Go right in, honey. He'll be so surprised." I was counting on it. Michael looked up as I entered, his expression flickering from surprise to something I couldn't quite identify before settling into a pleased smile. "Jude, what are you doing here?" "Brought you lunch?" I held up the bag. "Thought you could use a break." "That's sweet." He stood, came around the desk to kiss me. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." I set the food on his desk, then glanced around his office. "Patricia said you've been swamped. Where's your laptop? Still in meetings?" "In my briefcase. Why?" "I thought maybe I could pull up that restaurant website while you eat, make a reservation for this weekend. That new place you mentioned?" "Oh, sure." He retrieved the briefcase, pulled out the laptop, the duplicate, and handed it to me. Perfect. While he unwrapped his sandwich, I made a show of searching for restaurant websites. What I actually did was log into my own cloud storage and upload a specific file to his company email account. Then I composed a message, from Michael's email to HR and his regional manager. Subject line, Inappropriate Conduct Disclosure. The body contained a link to a private cloud folder. Inside that folder, the audio recording of my mother and Michael in the kitchen, screenshots of his explicit messages with Audrey, and a document I'd prepared outlining the timeline of their affair. I didn't send it yet. I saved it as a draft. "Find anything good?" Michael asked, mouth full of sandwich. "A few options. I'll email you the links." I closed the laptop and handed it back. "Actually, I should get going. Told my mom I'd stop by this afternoon." That was a lie. I hadn't spoken to my mother since Tuesday. "Tell Elaine I said hi," he said casually. "I will," I lied again. I kissed him goodbye and left, nodding pleasantly to Patricia on my way out. Back in my car, I pulled out my phone and opened my cloud storage. The draft email sat there, waiting. 1 click, and it would send. 1 click, and Michael's professional life would implode. But timing was everything. I needed all my pieces in position first. Instead, I called Cleo Wren. Cleo was a social media strategist I'd met at a networking event 2 years ago. We'd had drinks a few times, discovered we shared a similarly cynical worldview and an appreciation for precision in our respective fields. She specialized in reputation management, building it up, tearing it down, whatever the client needed. "Judith, long time. What's happening?" "I need your professional expertise." "Uh-oh, this sounds expensive." "I'll pay whatever you charge. I need to ruin someone's reputation." Quietly at first, then very loudly. A pause. "I'm listening." I explained the situation in clinical terms. Husband cheating with best friend, mother enabling it, I wanted justice, wanted consequences, wanted everyone to know exactly what they'd done. So you want a controlled burn, Cleo said thoughtfully. Start small, let rumors build, then hit them with proof when everyone's already whispering. Exactly. I can do that. When do you want to start? Now, but the big reveal needs to wait until Monday. I'm coordinating with some other things. Mysterious. I like it. Send me everything you've got. Photos, timelines, whatever. I'll start seeding hints today. Nothing direct, just atmosphere. Thank you, Cleo. Honey, I should thank you. This is going to be satisfying. That evening, Michael came home at his usual time. He seemed relaxed, happy even, whistled while making himself a drink. I realized he had no idea anything was wrong, no sense that his entire world was about to collapse. The funny thing about betrayal is that the betrayer often feels entirely safe. They've gotten away with it for so long that they stop looking over their shoulder. They forget that other people can be just as deceptive, just as calculated. They forget that sometimes the quietest person in the room is the most dangerous. How was your visit with your mom? He asked. Fine. She sends her love. She's a good woman, your mother. I smiled. Yes, she certainly has strong opinions about family loyalty. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. Saturday morning, I woke early and went through my mother's social media. Elaine was prolific online. Constant updates about church activities, charity events, inspirational quotes about faith and family. Her profile was carefully curated to present the image of a devoted Christian woman, a pillar of the community, someone whose opinions on morality carried weight. It was all about to come crashing down. I spent the morning organizing files. The audio recording went into 3 separate cloud accounts. The screenshots of Michael's messages went into 2 more. I created a document outlining the complete timeline, with dates, locations, and corroborating details. Then I created a private WhatsApp group. The members, 17 members of my extended family, including my mother's sisters, my cousins, my father, Michael's parents, and several family friends who'd been present at our wedding. The group name, Family Truth. I didn't post anything yet, just created it, added everyone, and watched the person added you to a group notifications pile up in my own phone. By noon, I had 5 confused messages asking what the group was for. I responded to each one individually. Important family announcement. We'll share details tomorrow evening. That would give them 24 hours to speculate, to wonder, to pay attention. Perfect. Michael spent Saturday doing yard work. I watched him through the kitchen window, mowing the lawn, trimming the hedges, working with the focused concentration of someone who has no idea his life is about to implode. At one point, his phone rang. He answered it, smiled, talked for several minutes. When he came inside, I asked casually who'd called. Just Doug, asking about football tomorrow. Another lie. I'd seen Audrey's name flash on his screen. That sounds nice, I said. I might go visit some friends tomorrow, too. Haven't seen Rachel in a while. Good idea. You've been working too hard lately. The concern in his voice might have been genuine. It didn't matter anymore. Sunday morning, I told Michael I was meeting Rachel for brunch. Instead, I drove to my parents' house. My father was at golf. He always was on Sunday mornings. My mother was home alone, likely preparing for church service later. I parked down the street and walked to the house, using my key to let myself in quietly. I found her in the kitchen, exactly where I'd found her voice Tuesday evening, sitting at the table with her Bible and morning coffee. Judith? She looked up, surprised. I didn't know you were coming by. We need to talk, Mother. Something in my tone made her face shift. Is everything all right? I pulled out my phone and set it on the table between us. Then I played the recording. Her own voice filled the kitchen. I know Audrey can make you happy in ways Judith can't. It's just one night, Michael. Don't ruin our family over this. The color drained from her face. Judith, I can explain. We'll make sure she never finds out. Trust me. The recording continued, her laughter. His laughter. Stop it, she whispered. I stopped the recording. You told my husband to have an affair with my best friend. It wasn't like that. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. She stood, agitated, hands fluttering. You've been so cold to him lately, so focused on work. He's lonely, Judith. He needed... So you gave him permission to cheat on me. It's not cheating if it's just physical, if there's no real emotional connection. I was trying to save your marriage. The logic was so twisted, so fundamentally broken, that I almost laughed. By encouraging him to have an affair, by giving him an outlet that wouldn't threaten your real relationship. She was getting desperate now, words tumbling faster. Audrey doesn't want him permanently. She's just lonely too. It was supposed to be temporary, just until you and Michael worked through this rough patch. What rough patch, Mother? I didn't know we had problems until I heard you discussing my marriage. You're always working. A man has needs, she said. Of course, it was my fault. I see. You care more about appearances than truth. You think I'm responsible for Michael's behavior. Don't twist my words. I'm not. I'm filing for divorce, and everyone will know what you did. You can't. Think about the family. The church should know their women's auxiliary president encourages adultery. She went pale. You wouldn't. Watch me. I left her standing in the kitchen where she'd betrayed me. That evening I posted in the Family Truth WhatsApp group the audio, screenshots, and a statement, my husband's affair with my best friend, my mother's involvement, my decision to divorce. The chat exploded. Shock, anger, denial. My mother tried to lie until my aunt cut her off. Elaine, that's your voice. Silence followed. By morning, Michael's phone wouldn't stop ringing. When he came out of the shower, I said, I told them about Audrey. You what? I heard everything in my mother's kitchen. He tried excuses, distance, loneliness. I told him I'd moved my inheritance, emailed his boss from his account, and that this was only the beginning. You'll ruin me. Yes, I said. I will. He begged to fix things. I told him to leave. This is my house, too. Mostly mine. My lawyer files tomorrow. He packed silently, shaking with anger. You've thought of everything. I had a week, I said. At the door, he muttered, This isn't over. Yes, I said. It is. I'll fight you on the house, on the money, on everything. You can try, but you might want to focus your energy on keeping your job. Patricia called me yesterday, by the way. Wanted to let me know HR is opening an investigation, something about inappropriate use of company resources for personal relationships. He stopped packing. What? Apparently, booking hotel rooms on the company credit card for non-business purposes is a violation of your employment contract. Who knew? I never used the company card for... He stopped. Wait, the Marriott in March. That was for a client dinner. The client dinner that got canceled? The one where you still kept the room and checked in with Audrey? That's all in the expense reports. Very detailed records. His face went gray. You sent them my expense reports. I sent them everything. I told you. Precision and timing. He zipped the duffel bag with violent force. I hope you're proud of yourself. Not proud. Just finished. He grabbed his keys from the dresser, then paused at the door. You know what the worst part is? I actually did love you. Maybe I still do. But you were never really present. Always working, always somewhere else mentally. I was lonely. Then you should have talked to me, gone to counseling, filed for divorce, honestly. You had options that didn't involve my mother and my best friend conspiring behind my back. Would you have listened? Would you have actually made time for me? The question hung there, and I realized he genuinely thought this was a reasonable point, that his loneliness justified betrayal, that my career, the career supporting both of us, was somehow equivalent to infidelity. Get out, I said quietly. He left. I sat on the bed in the silence that followed, listening to his car start, listening to the sound fade as he drove away. Then I called my attorney. Diane, it's Judith Hale. I need to file for divorce. Monday afternoon, I drove to Audrey's salon. I didn't go inside. I just parked across the street and watched. The parking lot was nearly empty, unusual for a Monday afternoon. Through the window, I could see Audrey at the front desk, phone pressed to her ear, her face tight with stress. As I watched, a woman walked out of the salon, got into her car, and drove away. Another appointment canceled, probably. Cleo's work was already showing results. My phone buzzed, a text from Cleo. Salon's down to 2.8 stars online. Someone posted a review claiming they got a chemical burn from a hair treatment. It's fake, obviously, but it's spreading. I texted back, how long until she panics? She already is. Opened her business profile 3 times in the last hour. She knows something's wrong, but can't figure out what. Perfect. Another text from Theo. Company laptop switch went undetected. He's been using the duplicate for 4 days. How are you holding up? I appreciated that Theo asked about me rather than just the logistics. I'm fine, focused. That's not the same as fine. It's close enough. He sent back a simple thumbs up, which I knew was Theo speak for, I'm here if you need me. I sat in my car for another 20 minutes, watching Audrey pace inside the salon, watching her answer her phone repeatedly, watching her face get progressively more panicked. Then I drove away. That evening, I had dinner with my father. We met at a quiet restaurant downtown, the kind of place where conversations were private and the lighting was dim. He was already seated when I arrived, looking older than I remembered, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, sliding into the booth across from him. "Judith," he said my name like a sigh, "your mother is devastated." "Good," he winced. "That's harsh." "Is it?" "She encouraged my husband to cheat on me. She laughed about it. She told him they'd make sure I never found out. She was trying to prevent a divorce. By enabling an affair. That's not prevention, Dad. That's just postponing the inevitable while making it worse." He was quiet for a long moment, studying his water glass. "I didn't know about any of it. I came home yesterday and she was hysterical, showing me these messages, playing me this recording. I couldn't believe it was her voice. But it was." "But it was," he agreed. "Judith, I'm not defending what she did. I'm not defending either of them. But she's my wife. I have to support her, stand by her, even when she's wrong?" "Yes." "Then support her through the consequences, because they're coming." He looked up at me then. Really looked, and I saw something shift in his expression. Recognition, maybe. An understanding that his daughter wasn't going to back down, wasn't going to be reasonable or forgiving or quietly accommodating. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "I've already done most of it. The family knows. Michael's company knows. Audrey's business is collapsing. My mother's reputation is in free fall. I assume the church ladies are having a field day. They've asked her to step down from the auxiliary board. Temporarily, they said, but we both know what that means." I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I just felt tired. I didn't want this, you know. I wanted a marriage, a family, a best friend I could trust. I didn't want to become this person who plots revenge. "Then stop. Let it go. Move on." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because they're not sorry. Not really. Michael thinks he was lonely, so it's justified. Mom thinks she was helping, so it's forgivable. Audrey hasn't even acknowledged what she did. Nobody's taking actual responsibility. They're just mad they got caught." My father nodded slowly. "So, you're going to make them take responsibility?" "I'm going to make sure there are consequences. That's all. Actions have consequences. That's what you taught me, remember? When I was 8 and I lied about breaking your watch, you made me do extra chores for 3 months to save up to replace it. You said I needed to learn that lying had costs. That was different?" "No, it wasn't. It's exactly the same principle. Larger scale, higher stakes, but the same idea. They lied, they cheated, they conspired. Now they pay for it. Your mother barely leaves the house now. She's ashamed. She should be. Judith, Dad, I love you, but you're asking me to let this go, and I can't. Maybe in a year, maybe in 10 years, I'll be able to look back on this and feel something other than rage. But right now, I need to finish what I started." He was quiet for a while longer. Then, "What else are you planning?" "There's one more thing. Audrey's salon." "What about it?" "She's going to try to sell it. She has to. The business is failing, she's got debts, and her reputation is tanking. When she lists it, I'm going to buy it." My father's eyebrows shot up. "You're going to buy her business?" "Through an intermediary. She won't know it's me until the paperwork is final." "Why?" "Because she needs to understand that actions have consequences. She took something from me. I'm taking something from her." "That's vindictive." "Yes," I agreed. "It is." We finished dinner in relative silence after that. My father paid the check, kissed my forehead, and told me he loved me. I told him I loved him too. We both knew it didn't change anything. Tuesday morning, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was Audrey. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 7:15, again at 7:30. At 8, she sent a text. "Judith, please, we need to talk. I know you're mad, but I can explain." I didn't respond. At 9, she called from a different number, the salon's landline probably. I answered. "Judith, finally, I've been trying to reach you. What do you want, Audrey?" A pause. My tone must have surprised her. We'd been friends for 28 years. I'd never spoken to her with that particular flatness, that complete absence of warmth. "I want to explain. About Michael. It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think." "No, listen. It just happened. We didn't plan it. We were both just having an affair for 5 months. I know. I read the messages." "You read? How did you?" "I'm a financial consultant specializing in risk management. Did you think I wouldn't investigate?" "Judith, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. It was just physical. That's what my mother said. She said it didn't mean anything because there was no emotional connection. Your mother knew? She orchestrated it, encouraged it, told Michael I'd never find out. Silence on the other end of the line. Long, heavy silence. Oh my God, Audrey said finally. Judith, I didn't know Elaine was involved, I swear. Michael said you two were having problems, that you were distant, that the marriage was basically over. My marriage was fine until you decided you wanted my husband. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair, Audrey, but we're way past fairness now. What do you mean? I mean, your business is failing, your ratings are tanking, your clients are leaving, and you have no idea why. Wait, that's you? You're doing this? Yes. How? I haven't done anything wrong to my clients. You did something wrong to me, that was enough. Judith, please, the salon is my livelihood. I've worked so hard. So have I. I worked hard on my marriage, on our friendship, on trusting the people closest to me. You destroyed all of that. I'm just returning the favor. I'll fix this. I'll tell everyone the truth. I'll make it right. You can't. It's too late. Please, Judith. I'm begging you. I'm going to lose everything. Good, I said, and hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from guilt. I was past guilt. From adrenaline, maybe. From the sheer intensity of burning bridges that had once felt permanent. Theo called 10 minutes later. Heard from Audrey? He asked. Just now. She's panicking. She should be. Cleo's good at her job. The salon's going to be listed by end of week. How do you know? Because I had lunch with a commercial real estate agent yesterday. Asked about properties that might come available soon. He mentioned a salon in financial distress, owner looking to sell quickly. You're a step ahead of me. I'm efficient, still buying the salon. We're still doing this. I set up an LLC, clean name, nothing linking back to you. When she lists it, we'll make an offer. She'll never know until closing. Thank you, Theo. Don't thank me yet. It gets complicated from here. He wasn't wrong. Wednesday, Patricia from Michael's office called. Mrs. Hale, off record. Michael's been suspended. Inappropriate use of company resources. Hotels, personal emails, likely termination. Thank you, Patricia. For what it's worth, I always liked you. I'm sorry. I appreciate that. At the kitchen table, I made a list. Michael, suspended, ruined. Mother, exposed, disgraced. Audrey, business collapsing. Family, divided. Divorce. In progress, I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt empty. Michael texted, "This is your fault, all of it." I blocked his number. By Thursday, Audrey's salon was listed. $120,000, desperate. Theo called, "Make an offer? Wait 24 hours, let her sweat. You're good at this. I'm thorough. That's what worries me." Friday, we offered $100,000, all cash. She accepted within hours. 2 weeks until closing, 2 weeks until I owned what she'd built her life around. Cleo met me for coffee. "You look terrible," she said. "Thanks. I mean it. You're running on spite. You need to think about what comes after revenge." After? After you've destroyed them all. Who are you then? I didn't answer. "Finish the salon deal," she said. "Then stop. Start rebuilding your life." "I'll think about it." A week passed. Michael's things were gone. My mother called twice. I ignored her. My father called once. We talked politely. Audrey sent long, pleading messages. I read, didn't reply. Then came the closing. October 16th, 10 a.m. I arrived early, black suit, composed. Theo waited with the papers. Audrey came in late, shaking, eyes red, wearing the purse I'd given her. She hadn't seen me yet. "Ms. Flynn," the rep said. "Buyer's representative is here." Audrey looked up. Our eyes met. "No," she whispered. "You can't be—" "Hello, Audrey." "You're buying my salon?" "I am." She panicked. "I can't sell to her." "The contract's binding," the rep said flatly. "Judith, why are you doing this?" "Why do you think?" "Because you're angry. This is my livelihood." "Was," I said. "Please, I'll apologize publicly." "You'll sign the papers. You need the money, and you're out of options." She started to cry. "I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you slept with my husband, yet here we are." It meant nothing. It meant enough to last 5 months, enough lies to fill a year. That's not a mistake, Audrey. That's a choice. Choices have consequences. The room was silent. "Shall we proceed?" the rep asked. I nodded. Theo slid the papers forward. Audrey signed, trembling, tears smudging the ink. When it was over, the rep said, Congratulations, Ms. Hale. You're now the owner of Audrey's atelier. Thank you. At the door, Audrey turned back. We were friends since we were 8. You threw that away. I threw it away? I felt something crack inside. I would have done anything for you, and you betrayed me in my own home. You don't get to talk about friendship. You were never really there? I was always there. Every time you called, every time you needed something, I showed up, but you couldn't show up for me. You couldn't be loyal for 5 months. So don't you dare talk to me about throwing away friendship. She flinched. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're just sorry you got caught. Sorry you're facing consequences. But you're not actually sorry for what you did. I am. If you were sorry, you would have told me yourself. You would have confessed before I found out. But you didn't. You were happy to keep lying for as long as possible. So save your apologies. I don't want them. Audrey left without another word. I sat in that conference room for another 10 minutes, staring at the folder of documents that represented my ownership of her business. Theo sat quietly beside me, not speaking, just present. Do you feel better? He asked finally. I feel finished, I said. That's almost the same thing. I drove to my mother's house that afternoon. She was in the garden, wearing her gardening gloves, pulling weeds from the flower bed with more force than necessary. She looked up when she heard my car, and something flickered across her face. Hope, maybe, or fear. Probably both. Judith, she said, standing, brushing dirt from her knees. Mother, your father told me you bought Audrey's salon. I did. That's cruel. So is telling my husband to have an affair with my best friend. She flinched. I thought we were past this. We're not past it. We'll never be past it. So what? You're going to hate me forever. I'm your mother. Yes, you are, which makes what you did worse, not better. She pulled off her gloves, folding them carefully, buying time. I was trying to save your marriage. By destroying it? By giving Michael an outlet that wouldn't threaten the real relationship. Stop. Just stop with that logic. It's broken. It's fundamentally broken. You can't save a marriage by encouraging infidelity. I can't change what I did. No, you can't. But you could take responsibility. You could actually apologize without immediately justifying it. I am sorry. Are you? Are you sorry for what you did, or are you sorry that I found out? Are you sorry for betraying me, or are you sorry that it cost you your position at church? She was quiet for a long moment. Both, she said finally. I'm sorry for both. It was the first honest thing she'd said. Okay, I said. Okay? Okay. I believe you're sorry. But that doesn't fix this. That doesn't make us okay. So what happens now? Now I finish my divorce. I figure out what to do with the salon. I rebuild my life without you in it. Without me? Her voice cracked. Judith, I'm your mother. Yes, and you betrayed me. So for now, maybe for a long time, I need you not to be part of my life. You can't mean that. I do. I need space. I need time. I need to figure out who I am when I'm not your daughter, trying to live up to your impossible standards. My standards aren't impossible. You told my husband to have an affair because you thought I wasn't being a good enough wife. Your standards are absolutely impossible. She started crying then. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she'd used when I was younger to guilt me into compliance. I didn't mean to hurt you, but you did, and now we both have to live with that. I turned to leave, then stopped. Dad didn't know. He's not part of this, and don't punish him for my decisions. I would never. Good, he's a good man. He deserves better than being caught in the middle. I left her standing in her garden, crying among her flowers, probably already planning how to explain this to her friends at church. I didn't look back. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly simple. Michael tried to contest the asset division at first, claiming he deserved half of everything. My attorney, Diane, shut that down with a folder of documentation showing my separate property claims, my proof of down payment on the house, my records of disproportionate mortgage payments. Michael's attorney took one look at the evidence and advised his client to settle. We split the house equity based on actual contributions. I got 83%, he got 17%. We split the retirement accounts evenly, as required by law. He got his car, his furniture, his personal belongings. I kept everything else. The whole process took 6 weeks. I never saw him in person again after that morning when he packed his things. Everything was handled through attorneys, through emails, through cold legal language that reduced our 5-year marriage to a series of asset divisions and liability assignments. On November 28th, the divorce was finalized. I was single again, free again, alone again. I sat in my car outside the courthouse and called Cleo. It's done, I said. How do you feel? Empty. That's normal. You've been running on revenge for 2 months. Now that it's over, you're left with just yourself. That's not very comforting. It's not supposed to be comforting. It's supposed to be true. What do I do now? Now? You figure out what Judith wants. Not what Judith wants to take away from other people, but what Judith actually wants for herself. I have no idea what that is. Then that's your next project. Figure it out. We talked for another 20 minutes, and by the end, I felt slightly less empty, or maybe just less afraid of the emptiness. I decided to keep the salon, not because I wanted to run a beauty business, I knew nothing about hair and cared less, but because I hired the 2 stylists Audrey had employed, gave them raises and profit-sharing agreements, and helped them rebrand the place as a cooperative. They renamed it Renewal. I thought that was fitting. Within 3 months, the online ratings had recovered. Within 6 months, they were thriving. The stylists were happy, the clients were happy, and I collected a small percentage of profits that I donated to a women's domestic violence shelter. Audrey, I heard through mutual acquaintances, had moved to another state, working at a chain salon, living in a small apartment, starting over from nothing. I didn't feel guilty about that. I didn't feel triumphant either. I just felt finished. Michael's termination from his job became official in December. He found new employment eventually, but at a lower salary, with a company that didn't know about his history. I heard about it through the same network of acquaintances and felt nothing. My mother continued reaching out periodically, birthday cards, holiday messages, attempts at reconciliation. I responded politely but distantly. Maybe someday we'd rebuild something, but not yet, not soon. My father and I had dinner once a month. We talked about his work, about my work, about nothing important. We didn't discuss my mother or Michael or any of it. The silence around those topics was comfortable, familiar, sustainable. I started therapy in January. Dr. Martinez was practical and direct, which I appreciated. She didn't try to make me feel guilty about the revenge. She just helped me understand what had driven it and what I needed to do to move forward. Revenge, she said during one session, is often about control. When someone betrays you, they take away your agency. Revenge is taking it back. Did I take it back? I asked. I think you did. But now you need to figure out what to do with it. That was the work, apparently. Figuring out what to do with all this agency I'd reclaimed, all this control I'd seized back from people who'd tried to take it away. 6 months after the divorce, I was having coffee with Rachel. Actual Rachel this time. Not the fictional version I'd used as an excuse. She was one of the few friends who'd stood by me through everything, who'd listened without judgment, who'd let me be angry and hurt and vindictive without trying to talk me out of it. You seem different, she said, studying me across the table. Different how? Calmer, less sharp-edged. Is that good? I think so. The sharp edges were necessary for a while, but you can't stay that way forever. You'd cut yourself eventually. Cleo said something similar. Cleo's smart. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Rachel asked, Do you regret it? Any of it? I considered the question carefully. No, I don't regret making them face consequences. They hurt me deliberately, repeatedly, over months. They deserved what happened. But I regret who I became in the process. The person who could plot someone's professional destruction, who could systematically take apart her friend's livelihood, who could look her own mother in the eye and feel nothing. I'm not sure I like that person. That person was protecting you. She did what needed to be done. Maybe, but I don't want to be her anymore. So who do you want to be? That was the question, wasn't it? Who was Judith when she wasn't a wife, wasn't a daughter living up to impossible standards, wasn't someone plotting revenge? I don't know yet, I admitted, but I'm working on it. It's been a year now since I found out about the affair. October again, leaves changing colors, the world preparing for winter. I still live in the same house, though I've redecorated extensively. New furniture, new paint, new energy. It feels like mine now, not like a space I shared with someone who didn't respect me. I still work as a financial consultant. I'm good at it, and I like the work. But I've started taking on fewer clients, creating space for other things. I'm not sure what those other things are yet, but I'm learning that not everything needs to be planned. The salon continues to thrive. The stylists send me updates occasionally, and I visit every few months to check in. They've created something good there, something collaborative and supportive. I'm proud of that, even though I had very little to do with it beyond providing the opportunity. My relationship with my mother remains distant, but cordial. We had lunch last month, the first time I'd agreed to see her in person since the divorce. She's quieter now, less certain of her opinions, more careful with her words. I'm not sure if that's growth or just fear of losing me entirely. Either way, it's better than it was. I heard Michael got remarried last month, someone from his new office. They dated for 3 months before getting engaged. I felt a flicker of pity for her. Not jealousy, not anger, just pity. She probably doesn't know what she signed up for. But that's not my problem anymore. I've been on a few dates, nothing serious yet, but I'm not in a hurry. Dr. Martinez says I need to relearn trust, relearn vulnerability, relearn how to let someone get close without constantly scanning for betrayal. She's probably right. It's slow work, but I'm patient. Last week, I was organizing files in my office and came across the notebook from that first night, the one where I'd written down account numbers and timelines and contingencies. I flipped through it, reading my own handwriting, remembering the cold fury that had driven every word. I thought about burning it, some kind of symbolic gesture, letting go of the past, moving forward. Instead, I put it in a drawer. Not because I want to hold on to the anger, but because I don't want to forget what I learned. About myself, about other people, about the importance of precision and timing and protecting yourself. Those lessons came at a terrible cost, but they were valuable nonetheless. I'm writing this on a Sunday evening in late October. The house is quiet. I'm sitting at my kitchen table with tea and my laptop, trying to make sense of the last year, trying to understand the person I was and the person I'm becoming. Someone asked me recently if I would do it all again, knowing what I know now. If I could go back to that Tuesday evening in my mother's kitchen, would I still record the conversation? Would I still execute every calculated step of my revenge? The honest answer is, I don't know. What they did was wrong. Unforgivably wrong. They deserved consequences, deserved to face the reality of their choices. I don't regret making sure that happened, but revenge is a strange thing. It gives you satisfaction in the moment. That rush of power, of control, of watching someone who hurt you finally understand what they've done. But it doesn't heal anything. It doesn't undo the betrayal. It doesn't give you back what you lost. I destroyed Michael's career and Audrey's business and my mother's reputation. I did it methodically, precisely, with the same attention to detail I bring to my professional work. And it worked exactly as I planned. But I'm not whole because of it. I'm just different. The betrayal changed me in ways that the revenge couldn't fix. I'm more guarded now, slower to trust, quicker to look for hidden motives. I second-guess people's kindness, wondering what they want in return. I analyze relationships like financial portfolios, looking for risks and vulnerabilities. Dr. Martinez says this is normal, that trust takes time to rebuild, that I shouldn't expect to bounce back from something this profound as if nothing happened. She's probably right. But it's exhausting, living this way. Always watching, always protecting myself. My phone buzzes. A text from Theo. Dinner this week? There's a new Italian place downtown that's supposed to be excellent. I stare at the message for a moment. Theo has been unfailingly kind, reliably supportive, never pushing for more than I'm ready to give. He helped me when I needed help, and never asked for anything in return, except my company occasionally. Part of me wants to say yes immediately. Part of me wants to analyze his motives, wonder if there's something else he wants, protect myself from another potential betrayal. I type back, Thursday at 7? His response comes quickly. Perfect. See you then? Simple, straightforward. Maybe that's enough. I've been thinking a lot about Audrey lately. Not with anger anymore, just with a strange kind of curiosity. We were friends for 28 years. That's 3/4 of my life. She knew me before I knew myself, was there for every major moment, every triumph and failure, and she still betrayed me. I try to understand it sometimes. What makes someone capable of that? Was it selfishness? Weakness? Some fundamental brokenness in her character that I'd somehow missed for nearly 3 decades? Or was it something more mundane? Opportunity meeting desire, meeting rationalization? Michael was attractive, available, paying attention to her. I was busy, distracted, taking both of them for granted. Maybe in her mind, it wasn't really betrayal. Maybe she convinced herself it didn't count, wouldn't hurt me, was somehow acceptable because I wasn't there to see it. The scary thing is, I almost understand that logic. Not agree with it, but understand how someone could twist reality enough to make it seem okay. How you could tell yourself that what someone doesn't know can't hurt them, that temporary pleasure is worth permanent deception, that the rules don't apply to you because your situation is special. That's what frightens me most, I think. Not that people are capable of betrayal, but that they're capable of justifying it so thoroughly that they don't even recognize it as wrong. My mother certainly didn't. In her worldview, she was helping, protecting the family, preventing something worse. The fact that she was enabling infidelity didn't register as a moral failing because she'd reframed it as pragmatic intervention. Michael didn't think he was doing anything terrible either. He was lonely, I was unavailable, Audrey was there. Simple equation, justified conclusion. The vows we'd made, the trust I'd placed in him, the basic decency of honest communication, all of that dissolved in the face of his immediate wants. They all had reasons, justifications, explanations for why their betrayal wasn't really betrayal, why the rules didn't apply, why I shouldn't be hurt or angry or vindictive. That's what I can't forgive. Not the affair itself, but the complete absence of accountability, the immediate pivot to justification instead of apology, the refusal to acknowledge that they'd done something fundamentally wrong. If any of them had come to me before I found out, had confessed honestly, had taken responsibility without making excuses, I don't know. Maybe I would have reacted differently. Maybe I would have found a way to forgive, but they didn't. They were perfectly happy to keep lying indefinitely. And when I caught them, their first instinct wasn't remorse, but damage control. That's what I destroyed. Not just their careers or reputations or livelihoods, but the comfortable fiction that they could hurt me without consequences. It's getting late. Almost midnight. I should probably stop writing and go to bed. But there's something else I need to say, need to acknowledge, even if it's just to myself in this document that no one else will ever read. I'm not the hero of this story. I spent 2 months systematically destroying 3 people's lives. I did it deliberately, calculatedly, with precision and timing, and absolutely no mercy. I enjoyed parts of it, the planning, the execution, the moments when they finally understood what was happening. That doesn't make me a good person. It makes me someone who was hurt badly enough to hurt back, effectively enough to win. But winning doesn't make you right. It just makes you victorious. I think about that sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep. I think about Audrey in her new city, starting over from nothing. I think about Michael, rebuilding his career, probably telling his new wife that his ex was vindictive and crazy. I think about my mother, diminished and uncertain, her carefully constructed social standing shattered. I did that. Me. Not because I had to, not because it was the only option, but because I chose to. Because I decided that they needed to suffer the way I'd suffered, needed to lose things the way I'd lost things. Was I wrong? I honestly don't know. Dr. Martinez says I'm not required to feel guilty about protecting myself, about insisting on consequences for people who hurt me. She says that victims aren't obligated to be gracious or forgiving or understanding, but I'm not sure I was just protecting myself by the end. I think I crossed a line somewhere between justice and revenge, between reasonable consequences and deliberate destruction. The thing is, I can't regret it. Even knowing what I know now, even understanding that it didn't heal me the way I thought it would, I can't regret making them face what they'd done. Maybe that makes me a bad person, or maybe it just makes me human. Next month would have been our 6-year anniversary. Michael and I would have done something quiet, dinner at a nice restaurant, maybe a weekend away somewhere. We would have exchanged cards, said we loved each other, gone to bed believing our marriage was solid. All of it a lie, apparently. Or maybe it wasn't a lie at first. Maybe it was real once, and it degraded so slowly that neither of us noticed until it was too late to save. I'll never know now. That's the thing about betrayal. It poisons everything retroactively. All those memories I thought were genuine now feel suspect. Was he thinking about her when he kissed me? Was he comparing us? Was any of it real? Or was I just convenient until something better came along? I've stopped asking those questions as much. They don't have answers, and searching for them just hurts more. Instead, I'm trying to focus on building something new, not a new relationship. I'm not ready for that yet, despite Theo's careful attention and patient kindness. But a new understanding of myself, a new framework for how I move through the world. I'm learning to be alone without being lonely, to find satisfaction in my work, in my friendships, in small pleasures that don't depend on anyone else's validation or presence. I'm learning that my worth isn't determined by whether someone chooses to stay or leave, betray or honor, love or abandon. These are hard lessons. Some days I'm better at them than others, but I'm learning. I close my laptop and carry my empty tea mug to the sink. The house is dark except for the kitchen light. Through the window, I can see the neighborhood settling into night, porch lights clicking off, bedroom windows going dark, families and couples and single people all moving through their own private dramas. Everyone has their own version of this story, I suppose. Everyone has been betrayed at some point, hurt by someone they trusted, forced to decide how to respond. Some people choose forgiveness, some choose distance, some choose revenge. I chose revenge, and I don't regret it. But I'm also choosing something else now. choosing to move forward, to rebuild, to become someone who isn't defined solely by what was done to her and what she did in response. That's harder than revenge, actually. Revenge has clear goals, definite endpoints, measurable successes. Moving forward is messier, more ambiguous, harder to quantify, but I'm doing it anyway. My phone buzzes again. Another text from Theo. By the way, I know Thursday is your birthday. If you want to do something different, just say the word. I smile despite myself. I'd forgotten my birthday was Thursday. 37 years old. Another year survived, another year of becoming whoever I'm supposed to be. I text back, Italian sounds perfect. Thank you for remembering. Always, he responds. I turn off the kitchen light and head upstairs to bed. Tomorrow is Monday. I have clients to meet, proposals to review, a life to continue living. The past year happened, shaped me, changed me in ways both good and terrible. But it's done now. The revenge is complete, the consequences delivered, the bridges burned. What comes next is entirely up to me. And for the first time in a year, that doesn't terrify me. It just feels like possibility. I climb into bed, in my house, in my life that belongs only to me, and fall asleep almost immediately, dreamless and still. The war is over. I won. Now I just have to figure out what peace looks like.